My hand drawings are really bad, and I'm tired of them holding back my character art. So I decided I'm going to fix that, and I'm here to help you fix your hands too. After you watch this video, you'll learn the 4 keys that took me from drawing hands like this to this. We'll be going over their structure, gesture, characterization, and coloring. Let's dive in. The palm has many shapes and volumes. Let's forget about the fingers and the thumb for a little bit and try to work with an easier shape. This right here is the most basic shape I came up with for the palm. As you see, the side below the pinky is a little bit rounder, and the top of the palm also has a slight curve to it, being the highest at the center and the lowest at the pinky. You can start by drawing a flat box shape, then adding the small details I just mentioned. It gets a lot more complex than this, but it's better to have a simple foundation than it is to get overwhelmed by all the details and volumes. It looks mostly the same from the back, except it's flipped. This is a great time to move on to the fingers. As you can see on the back of your hand, the bones radiate from the bottom center of the palm, creating a fan shape. This is important to remember, because respecting this shape naturally separates your fingers and makes them point in correct directions, regardless of if they're pointing inwards or outwards like this. To avoid getting confused by perspective, I recommend starting with a line that follows the overall direction and proportions of the finger. Once you've nailed the angles, it's much easier to add volume. I also like to draw the bottom side soft and rounded, while making the tops more angular. This makes them look a lot more organic. The thumb's a little bit different from the rest of the fingers. It has 2 main visible segments and a fleshy base. I like to draw it separate from the palm and other fingers, as it moves a lot more independently. Trying to draw it all as the same shape can get messy really quickly. One of the best tips I've ever heard is to think of the thumb as a chicken drumstick. This makes it easier to get the proportions and thickness of the thumb's base right. And now, for the last part of the breakdown, I want to talk about webbing. This is the thin tissue that connects the fingers. It looks different depending on if you're looking at the hand from the front or the back. It's a small detail, but goes a long way if you want to make your art look a little bit more real. Now that we've broken down the hand into its basic parts, let's talk about gesture. Hands are expressive, so it's important to capture their emotion and movement. But it's really hard with so many small parts to keep track of at the same time. So let's talk about 3 tips. Angles. Before you start adding a lot of structure, it's important that you keep in mind the direction each part is facing, mainly the wrist, the palm, and each of the fingers. Getting this right makes it so that your hands don't look too stiff. Blocking out. This one's very important. Whenever you're using a reference and the fingers are all over the place, try to block it out with big, rough shapes. Don't worry about the details just now. You're trying to get the correct overall shape. It's also important that you're aware of the space that each of the parts is not taking. Noticing and using negative space can greatly improve your art in general, but it's especially important when drawing hands. Simplifying. Sometimes less is more. What I mean by that is you don't really need to draw every single finger or segment all the time. You'll see references where an extended finger can easily be simplified into 2 bigger segments like this. Other times you can merge whole fingers like this. Professional artists do it all the time. Implying details can work just as well as constructing the whole thing. After talking about structure and gesture, we can go a little bit deeper into stylizing hands for different kinds of characters. Hands can say a lot about your character. In general, bigger hands with chunky fingers feel more masculine and powerful, while thinner and delicate hands are perfect for feminine or elegant characters. The length and how pointy the nails are can also affect the way your character comes off. I'd also advise you to keep them as detailed as the rest of your character's body. Maintaining a similar level of detail across the board makes your designs look a lot more cohesive, but feel free to try different things. Finally, I want to tell you a little bit about coloring hands. Our bodies have a natural red coloration. This results in our hands having small hints of red. You can mainly see them on fingertips, knuckles, and some parts of the palm. I'd also recommend you try to keep your highlights warm and shadows cool. This will depend on your lighting, of course, but it gives a nice touch. You can also add subsurface scattering. In very simple words, it's the saturation increase right between light and shadow on skin. This makes the skin of your characters feel very alive. So that's all the 4 main takeaways I got from studying hands these past few weeks. It's a lot of information and it's okay to feel overwhelmed at first. Hands can make or break a drawing, so it's important you keep trying. I've linked a few other great tutorials by other artists in the description. Here's my latest piece I was able to draw after taking in all of this. I hope you liked it. Remember to enjoy the process. Take it at your own pace. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it helpful. See you next time.